Hello Internet and welcome to another, very short tutorial video for Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead. In this episode we will be talking about the difference between stable and experimental and which one you should play. Well, why didn't I put this in the video where I talked about obtaining the game? Well, you really never know when someone's already got the game, maybe they're looking to update. I just figured I would make it a standalone and very short video. So Cataclysm has two main call them release types. We've got stable and we've got experimental. Now, stable means exactly what it says. It's a pretty stable version of the game. The dev team has stated that they would like to have a new stable release every 6 months or so, but it hasn't really shaken out that way, and we've been averaging about one per year. For several months prior to a stable release, the dev team works very hard to make sure it's smooth sailing. They focus on keeping saves compatible between releases, they make a point to iron out major bugs and crashes, and they strive to make sure the mechanics of the game are as balanced as they can be. Now, because of this, when they release a stable, it's usually a very playable game with very few issues. If there are major issues, they will make a follow-up release. Now let's talk about experimental. Unlike stable, experimental is updated constantly. This usually means that we get multiple new versions of the game every single day. When a contributor or dev member decides to implement some cool new feature, it goes into experimental first, mostly for playtesting and refinement. Now, stable players generally don't see these new things until many months later after they've been tweaked and refined and fixed up a bit. This means that experimental frequently comes with a lot of bugs and partially implemented features. Even when a feature is fully implemented, even when a feature is really good and a great addition to the game, it takes time to balance it properly and dial everything in. This can lead to bugs, errors, and crashes. Every once in a while, usually maybe once or twice a year, there's a bug that is genuinely game-breaking, meaning that if you update, you can't even play the game. Now, most of the time when there are issues like this, there's literally nothing you can do as the player to fix these things. You just have to sorta ride it out until someone else comes along and fixes the problem. Now, again, that's not super common. It usually happens maybe a couple times a year, and usually when it's really bad, people try to fix it very quickly. But this brings us to the main question: should you play stable or experimental? If you're a new player, it's an easy answer. You should start on stable. When I picked up the game, I started on stable. It's the most polished experience, free of game-shattering bugs and most headaches. You should start on stable, especially if you have a low tolerance for bugs and issues. There's a large section of our community that only plays on the stable version, and they come back to the game whenever there's a new release. Stable is the thing we recommend to new players, and there's good reasons for that. We often encounter people who get very frustrated by bugs and issues that come with the experimental version of the game. But if you're a returning player who has a good handle on the game, or you're someone like me that wants all of the cutting-edge features, you can try out experimental. Generally, your stable saves will translate to current experimental, though obviously don't try to use a save from several years ago. I don't know if that would work. But updating from stable to experimental is generally pretty painless. So start on stable and transition to experimental if that's what you want to do. Now, when new stuff comes to the game, it comes first to experimental, along with whatever bugs and balance issues they happen to bring. You have to choose if you want cutting-edge features or a well-balanced experience. If you choose experimental, you need to have patience and show respect to the dev team. That's what you're signing up for. If you want to play experimental, you should at the very least be understanding, and if you really care about the project, you should be making bug reports and talking to the community about these things so that we can work together to help build this game up. I know it might not seem like it, but you can actually help shape the development of this wonderful game. By participating, sharing your bug reports and talking to other people about things, you're not only going to be part of the community, you're going to be contributing to making this excellent game that we all love. So in summation, you should play stable if you're looking for a stable and polished experience with very few bugs and crashes. If you have a decent tolerance for bugs and crashes and issues like that, and you want all the cutting edge features, then by all means move to experimental. But if you play experimental, you have to understand that there is going to be times when you're going to encounter bugs and issues that make the game virtually unplayable, and it may even be so bad that you might lose a character from time to time. So the decision, at the end of the day, it's up to you which version of the game you want to play. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You can do whatever you want. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully this helped you sort things out. Obliterate that like button on your way out, and I'll see you in the next video.